Welcome to Conlangery, the podcast about constructed languages and the people who create them. I'm George Corley, and with me in sunny California, we have David J. Peterson and Jessie Sams.
Hello. I think we were gonna, maybe say hello when George said our names, but no, David was totally silent.
I am dumbfounded that you said my name first.
Why?
Because you didn't give me time to rev up and prepare.
A hello. You do need time to prepare such things.
I mean, I guess we're just going to dive in and talk about my new motorcycle conlang. Is that what we're doing?
That would be very, very exciting. I have you guys on for reasons that have to do with conlanging, as I often do.
Reason.
But let's just before we go into that, a couple of top of the show announcements, sort of things in news. I wanted to highlight if people listened way back a long time ago to our Ho-Chunk episode, the elder we had on, Cecil Garvin, he just got an honorary doctorate from the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Oh,
nice.
So that's great for him for his work in revitalizing Ho-Chunk. I took a Ho-Chunk class with him, and that was very interesting to be involved with. So I'll link an article to that. Another thing, we just had the Language Creation Conference. There were lots of great presentations. I have a presentation up that was interesting. I kind of took it as sort of similar to what you would do for a linguistics conference, and you shop some ideas that you might use later. In my case, might turn into a longer video or something. But it was lots of interesting stuff, and everything's on YouTube if people want to check it all out. But moving on to the reason I have Jessie and David on, you guys are doing a second Conlang conference. Is that right?
you bet. That's right. So we are going to have a conlang conference called Kopikon. It's going to be September 23rd at Georgetown University. Basically, it's going to be live and in person, and anybody can come who wants to, except that we're limited to like 100 people.
So anyone can come as long as you are registered and in the system.
Yeah. First come, first served.
Yeah. Is there going to be any kind of digital live stream for that?
That's a super good question that I do not have an answer to yet. So we're still waiting back for answers on a couple of key points. One of them that's going to allow us to release the schedule, which will be happening soon. Perhaps, how long do you think it will be before this episode goes up?
I'm going to try to get it up as soon as possible, probably sometime within the week.
So we may or may not have the schedule ready by the time this is actually live. But shortly thereafter, surely we will be able to have that schedule released. And as far as the digital question, that is something that we are actively trying to figure out. So it is something we want to do. The question is, whether the facilities will allow for it, essentially. And so that's something that we are working on getting answers to.
Yeah, there also may be a tricky bit because we're going to have some music there, and I don't know if they will allow their stuff to be streamed, and if so, then we need to figure out, how we can stop it. Anyway, but I know that this is something that everybody has been asking, and believe me, it's not something that we're pushing aside. It's just something we don't have an answer to yet. Hopefully we will. Hopefully we will soon. But even so, if somebody is hoping to watch digitally, they can wait. after a few months off.
But it is the information that is up there on your site that looks like they had Squarespace in the 70s.
Woo! Thank you.
There's the two of you, of course, as speakers. We've got John Quijada, we got Sally Cave, Sylvia Sotomayor, Mark Okrand, Paul Fromer. This looks like a pretty good lineup of people at the conference, at least from the information so far. That's looking good.
Yeah. Also Carl Bucket for the younger folk, Biblaridian.
Yeah.
This, by the way, will be, as far as I know, I'm fairly certain this will be Biblaridian's first in-person presentation. He's a very big YouTuber, but has never done a live presentation. So,
yeah. Well, always going to be first for anything. I think I've seen one or two of his videos. Very interesting.
He's pretty big.
Very
Have you ever had him on here, Conlangery?
I don't think so.
I'm telling you, for the younger folk, it's it's something that you're going to want to do. I mean, comparatively speaking, like I think if you combine like our private YouTube channels and Langtime Studio together, I think we've got like I don't know, maybe 16,000 subscribers. Biblaridian is over 120. He is 120,000, excuse me. He is where young people get their conlanging information from. Like, it's like, I think he has overtaken Artifexian in terms of like the go-to person on the internet. So anyway, I'm going to throw out that recommendation. I think he'd be good on conlanging.
That is, I did not know that he was that big.
Well, are you kind of like us in that you don't really do YouTube a whole lot? Like watching videos?
When I had time, I watched a lot of YouTube. I have never really watched a lot of conlanging YouTube content.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. It's, I think a lot of the YouTube content on conlanging is geared towards more beginners, which is nothing wrong with the content. It's just like I'm not the target audience, right?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, and also it's just now I have full-time job and 3 kids, and I do not have time to watch YouTube.
Absolutely. Well, this is what I'll recommend before you have Biblaridian on. Take a look at some of his conlang showcases. That's where he just does a video on one of his conlangs. You'll see why he has inspired such a following. He's done good stuff.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
moving on from infomercials about other people.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are on YouTube too, and this whole thing of Kopikon, I think, came out of the Langtime Studio live stream, right?
Oh, it surely did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surely did.
Yeah.
The weird adverb use.
And
there we go.
Why don't we get a little bit of an update on that? I have not been able to join in as often as I like, but I understand that you're working on the language for dogs, which is going to be the last one.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So originally, going way back, I've had this idea for some time of turning a video game that I was a really big fan of, Shining Force, into a board game. There's Shining Force 1 and 2 on Genesis, and it was just a really neat system that I didn't see implemented elsewhere. Others might be more familiar with a game called Fire Emblem, which kind of does a similar thing to Shining Force, but frankly, I never got into. Anyway, none of them really captured the core mechanics. No, there are some board games like something with cross in it, Cross Masters or something like that, where it's like kind of similar, but it doesn't capture the core mechanic very well. And so I wanted to create a board game that did that, and I thought it would be cool to make them with anthropomorphic animals. And I sat down to design this, and honestly, I've got the actual gameplay that's been done for ages, But then I sat down and I was like, well, something that was really cool about Shining Force is that each of these, little, soldiers that you have, they're basically individual characters with their own backstory. And I thought that would be really cool to do in a board game just for fun. And so then I sit down and start to write these, and I'm like, well, I'm going to need a language for each of these things, because the first thing you need to come up with is a name, and you can't have a name without a language. And so my original idea was to take 5 of my languages, 5 of my old languages, which are not up to my current standards, and update them. Right. And I had ideas for each one. The rabbits were going to have Kamikawi. The opossums were going to have Sedan. The dogs were going to have Gwader. The mice were going to have Njama. And the cats were going to have Giler. Anyway, I even started working on like a new Giler language for the cats, but just like it just wasn't coming together right. And anyway, at this time, Jessie and I had finished working on season 1 of Motherland Fort Salem.
So the year was roughly, well, actually it was sort of very beginning of 2020 at this point.
Yeah, very beginning of 2020. And so we weren't, assuming, we didn't know if Motherland Fort Salem was going to come back for season 2, but even if it did, we wouldn't be working on anything else for a while. We enjoyed working together so much that we wanted to do another project. And so that was when I came up with this idea, well, rather than revamp my old languages, which is going to take time anyway, why don't we, create some new languages for them, and then maybe we could do this as a YouTube series, me and Jessie. And this was mainly kind of an idea for us to work together. It was also inspired by 2 things. One was I had started not live streaming, but recording my work sessions when I was working on projects. They couldn't be live streamed, of course, because they were all NDA. But what I would do is I would put the work stream up after the show came out. So like they're, on my YouTube channel, there are streams of me working on like Dune and actually Halo and a couple of others that are up there. Anyway, so I did one with Jessie that went really well, but unfortunately we didn't record it. It was like we recorded it, but I guess like the mic or something wasn't on, so it was like an hour of silence.
Yeah, it didn't record any sound.
It was just humiliating. And so we did it again for the last episode of Motherland Fort Salem, and it was just so much fun doing it, working with Jessie and kind of like with the anticipation that we'd have an audience. So I thought, well, what if we did that live and just streamed the whole process of creating a language from beginning to end? With the idea being that, it's not going to be a quick 5-minute video on how to create a language, but if you wanted to see exactly what went into the process, and including long periods of just sitting there with silence, as you try to figure something out, that would be what that was for. And it was also partially inspired by Bob Ross. I just really loved how he has these videos of him just starting with a canvas and painting a picture. I think I originally intended them to be a bit more meditative in the style of Bob Ross. That's not how things turned out.
No.
But anyway, so that was kind of the whole impetus, the whole idea behind it. And so we decided we were going to create a language for each of these animals. We started with the rabbits, finished that out, moved on to the opossums, and then the mice, and then the cats, and now we are at the dogs. And these are the 5 original anthropomorphic animal sets I had in mind for the game. And so, yeah, we are now on the last language. And the plan was for Kopikon to be roughly at the same time as our last episode for season 5.
And in case you're wondering about the Kopikon name, that was because during our Langtime episodes, it was way back in season 1, when we would get to a point where we wanted to celebrate. David would often pull out a candy called Kopiko, which is a coffee flavored candy that he was a big fan of. I ended up getting in on it when he sent me a bag of Kopiko, so that way I could have some celebratory Kopiko as well. And so during episodes, every episode, we will have Kopiko at some point to celebrate whatever. And so that sort of became a thing. People who watched it a lot, we have a lot of inside jokes, and one of them became, oh, we should have a convention, and it should be the Kopikon. And suddenly that became its own thing, and our patrons picked up with that quite a bit, and to the point where we decided to make it a reality.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. Is there any, like, I have to ask, is there like any sponsorship or anything, or did you just decide to call it Kopikon?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none. And in fact, if the makers of Kopiko ever found out about it, I'm sure they would be furious. But Kopiko is actually, it's a coffee company. They decided to make these candies additionally, which I think is how they're the only way that they're known over here. But it's an Indonesian coffee company that makes the Kopiko coffee. And then they've made these candies, and the candies are big sellers, or I don't know, moderate sellers outside of Indonesia. Anyway, so yeah, they have no idea that this is happening at all. Certainly don't officially sponsor it.
I would like to think that they would maybe be tickled by, like, oh, look at these people making our candy sales go up.
Yep.
In really weird spots around the world.
That's right. And we're going to, of course, have a whole bunch of Kopiko for people to have at the convention, which we are going to buy and take there, and perhaps throw into the audience. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as long as you guys don't get sued.
Here's open.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
Well, now, I think that Conlang streaming has become a thing. Like I did a one-off series for Luxembourg. And that was interesting. I learned one thing is you need to have a project that you're comfortable with, like just random people on the internet having an opinion on and affecting, because they will push their ideas at you, and you need to figure out what you're going to do with that. But I occasionally will see other conlangers say, oh, I'm going to be streaming some conlanging. And it's interesting that is like becoming a thing. And we have Conlang YouTube is already a thing.
Yep.
It's 100,000 subscribers. I didn't think that there were 100,000 people interested in conlanging.
Oh yeah. I mean, Artifexian has a bunch of subscribers too.
Yeah, but he does more than conlanging too.
Well, Biblaridian does more than conlanging too. He does biology.
Yeah.
Doesn't interest me at all. But I'm telling you, there is. It's like I think, especially for us that have been involved in the conlanging community a long way, what we think about is like, here's the conlanging community, and we are coming out of it, and so now we're doing a thing, and hope that everybody in the conlanging community that we know will be interested in that thing and join it. But it's just an entirely different community that I think a lot of them are coming from. A lot of them, I think, are just people that watch YouTube things and people that like, interesting things, and maybe people who watch YouTube and never really thought about creating a language, but then come across one of these videos because they're popular and a friend shares them, and then they become interested. And I think it's drawing from a much larger audience than the community of, the conlang community of those that already exist and know what they're doing and why. Yeah.
I mean, that is a good point. I watch things that are related to my interests, like sort of reviews of audio equipment and stuff like that. And I have watched things on YouTube that, I mean, I would like to be able to do maybe, but have not done stuff like making miniatures and set pieces for TTRPGs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a TTRPG group that's meeting in person, and I don't really have the stuff to make all that stuff, but it's still interesting to watch it. So that would be an interesting thing to study, even, is like how many of these people are actually going on to create conlangs and how many are just interested in the process, either because they're interested in linguistics or they just like got the algorithmic recommendation to see it. I think.
Go ahead.
And both of those are good, I think. It's just something to ask about.
I think that you would be surprised how many go on to become language creators. And it's this kind of thing that I think the larger conlanging community and also the LCS is just completely missing. Because like these are people that come from YouTube, learn about conlanging at YouTube, never hear about anything related to the rest of the conlanging community, and then start producing stuff, and then basically just start producing their own YouTube videos. And it kind of like exists in an entire sphere that the LCS traditionally has not been very good with. Which is, and I think it's because a lot of the conlanging community is a little bit older, and they treat YouTube roughly the way that I do, which is that I am willing to put stuff there, but that's not where I live, So, that's kind of like what the LCS is doing, right? I mean, and it makes sense. It's like, well, YouTube is a place that the LCS puts its LCC videos, and they can link to them and point to them. But there's not going to be anybody there that spends time just scouring YouTube for any conlang content and seeing like who's there, what they're doing, where they exist, like what communities they have, trying to, not infiltrate the communities, but at least, make them aware, hey, the LCS is a thing, It's just not something that is kind of in the wheelhouse of the LCS,
Mm-hmm. Well, I think maybe people need to be a bit of a bridge, especially if, people like you, and maybe if I can get stuff onto YouTube, I can try.
This could be your first YouTube video. This could be it.
For people who are listening to the audio, I am recording video of this. And I have been planning on like putting my old episodes up onto YouTube and starting doing video podcasts on YouTube. But I am testing out a thing that will allow me to record video, and we will see if that goes anywhere. The thing with video content is that it takes more time and more effort than the audio content. With the audio content, I don't have to worry about how my room looks, which it's okay. It's not great right now.
It's fine. Look, the main reason I'm recommending this is because I'm seeing this video right now, and I look great. I don't always look great on a video, but this is dynamite.
And if the video
you can always trust David to have a high opinion of himself.
Thank you.
That's true. If this video does go live, shout out to our patron Jonathan, who created the artwork for a mouse house for our language, for our nice speakers.
And in fact, I don't know if this is probably too high quality, but here, duck down a little bit. You can see these little mice made a little shopping bag out of a Kopikon wrapper. It's adorable.
If I use this video, it'll probably be visible on YouTube. I can't see it right now because it saves bandwidth by making you
a little grainy.
all pixelated.
Yeah.
But yes, I am not above letting people see behind the curtain. Anyway, this is really exciting. So we're going to have 2 Conlang conferences in 1 year.
Yeah.
That's like the great thing, because like LCS has always been like every other year, and the recent couple of years they've been online only,
Right.
Yeah.
which that's sort of a like back and forth. Like I was only able to present because they had the online only
Right.
this year. And I mean, I'm sure that if they did in person, they could have a hybrid thing where some people could present online. I would kind of wish that we get back to in-person meetings more often, because I think it's good for the conlangers to come together. Not that I will guarantee that I can be at Kopikon. That's not necessarily something I will be able to do. But
I'm gonna take that soundbite out, just the part where you say, "I can guarantee that I will be at Kopikon," and I'm gonna put that as a quote on the website.
David,
Words
if you
you
can
actually
pay
said.
for my plane ticket and make me a speaker, then I will definitely be there.
Oh man, that was actually the one thing. As our speaker list started to grow, I was like, "Oh, maybe we should have asked for 2 days instead of 1," because I will tell you, we're probably going 10 to 7.
It's going to be quite a long day, but a day.
And it's like, obviously, I could easily think of more speakers, and you would be one of them. Oh, man.
And we also
But maybe we need something for Kopikon too.
Kopikon 2, that's right, the reprise.
Yeah, the one that's going to be at the University of Wisconsin.
That's right, hosted by George Corley.
I mean, after all, you've invited me to give so many talks there that at this point, I'm just a regular. What would it? I mean, it wouldn't be anything for you to host another conference there, say, in another year.
But
oh my goodness!
Yeah,
nothing at all. To the point that
you don't want me to host a live in-person event.
You don't.
I am
need to
not
host
good
it.
at that.
You need to say, you need to talk to the people and say, "Hey, let's get a room for this." That's all. Man, but yeah.
Oh my! I don't know. It's been a long time since I've talked to UW-Madison contacts, actually, because once you graduate and you don't go into the academic path, you kind of fall off of that.
Oh, so it would have been a whole lot easier for you to, for example, arrange a talk for a guest speaker while you were a student there. Is that right?
I tried to do an LCC at UW-Madison, but I couldn't get it arranged properly. I just people weren't helping me out with it, and it didn't plan out, and I was not selected, so they had it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now, let's move back to, because we're talking about you guys. We're not talking about me.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Fair enough.
You're finishing up this last language, and you plan to have it done around the time of Kopikon or or before Kopikon. When is the actual game going to come out?
David.
You have a timeline for that?
No.
Is there going to be a Kickstarter or something that I should promote?
Probably. That is definitely something that we should do. Of course, what we need to do. The whole reason for having the languages was to actually write up the characters. We need to get on that. We need to come up with names.
Sure thing.
Yeah, but we need to play test. Well, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. I'm going to go ahead and commit myself. We will play test a version of the game at Kopikon.
Whoa! Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, this is... Oh, you need to release that. More people are going to come. Oh, my goodness. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's the scoop here.
And his, like, I'm just
First on
episode
Conlangery.
done, right? I don't think it gets...
So you'll play test a version of the game.
Yeah.
And I presume this is going to include characters for all of the different animals.
Yeah.
And a map and all the things that you need for that, and that's very exciting.
It's huge.
Yeah.
All right, then with that, I don't know what else is there really to cover.
Well,
we've been kind of rambling for 30 minutes.
I know. Well, honestly, I mean, something that we kind of glossed over is, it's kind of cool that there's going to be, me, Mark Okrin, and Paul Fromer all speaking at the same thing. That's kind of a cool thing.
That's definitely great.
Yeah.
Mark
is a cool guy.
All of the big conlangers. I think, it is. So that's definitely a great thing that, like, the three of you are going to be there. You have Mark Okrin and Paul Fromer. I will say I am also excited about some of the other speakers because there are a lot of places where you can hear Mark Okrin and Paul Fromer speak. John Quijada? Not so much.
He's a good one. He's a good one.
Yeah.
And then, there's also Jessie. She's pretty good.
Sally Caves. I think I tried to get Sally Caves on the show once and didn't happen.
Really?
So,
oh man,
I think I'd have to look back through the archives of my email, but I think I tried to get her on. But yeah, there's everybody's going to be every one of these speakers is going to be somebody you want to listen to, and possibly meet and ask questions of. But I'm just happy to see like the expansion of the community and these two conferences in 1 year. You've got the expansion of the YouTube community and all of this stuff. I think it's really great. And I think I will say that your guys, because of you guys, I did that test with live streaming. And I really do want to do a more substantial live streaming project. It's, a challenge for me to get time to do that, but it's something that I would be interested in developing. And I think it's an inspiration to a lot of people to have just more conlang related media, not conlangs in media, but media about conlangs being produced. I started this podcast hoping that would happen, and I didn't get a whole lot of conlanging podcasts that come out from other people, but apparently we've got YouTubers and streamers now.
The truth is, though, that it's almost like you really have the conlanging podcast. And I will say that something that I think is extraordinarily valuable that I don't think gets enough attention is when somebody creates something and then sticks with it for a long period of time. And your podcast has been here for so long now. I remember when it first started, because I remember when a lot of these projects started, especially like the conlanging journals.
Yeah.
It's like it was like, we see an announcement, get ready for our first issue, and I'm thinking in my head, get ready for your last issue, because that's the way it goes. And so it's like, yeah, I remember when your podcast got started, and the first thing I thought was like, well, we'll see how many episodes this gets. And look how many episodes this has gotten. It really is something. It speaks to your dedication. It speaks to the fact that it's, actually kind of struck a nerve, and it's something that people are interested in. And man, I think it's just such a wonderful thing that it's gone on for so long, and it's kept going. It really has been a very important part of conlanging for the past, goodness, how many years now? How many years has it been?
It's over 10 years. I believe I started it in 2011.
Look at that.
Wow.
2011, by the way, still feels like yesterday, but
that's another issue, David.
But look at that. That's just, it's so wonderful.
Well, I mean, and it has not been easy, and I have had some issues with regularity recently. But I am still going at it, and I've been trying to work on ways to keep it going. But thank you for that. But I mean, you guys, you pushed it into. I mean, there were already YouTubers, but I think the streaming really is something that you pushed into existence with Langtime Studio, and I hope that goes on for a long time, because you don't have just these animals. You're gonna do expansion packs to the game.
That's true.
And you could even do other projects on Langtime Studio, right? So
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
we likely will. I mean, we'll probably have a discussion to see if we're going to change anything major moving forward, but we've got expansion animals, and that's the thing. I had basically the moment I finished the original set of animals and the original set of classes, I immediately thought of others, and I was like, man, this would be so good. Man, I'm so excited about one of these expansion classes.
What are the expansion animals?
Well,
is that poll over yet?
We had a whole big vote, and shoot, what were the top?
I don't even remember what the top were anymore.
Did otters make it to the top? River otters? River otters was one. Bats was, I know, one that was up near the top. They were very excited about bats.
Chipmunks dropped to the bottom, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, chipmunks are just darling. That was a real shame. And foxes and raccoons. I don't remember.
Did the beavers make it to the top?
Did the beavers make it to the top? That was my favorite one. Oh.
I hope that you have bats, because I like bats.
Yeah.
I would do the bat language with you guys.
Oh.
Man. And yeah, so that was, by the way, so part of it with the river otters and the bats was creating, a swimming class and a flying class, and figuring out exactly how those would work. And of course, if you're going to create a swimming class, right, then it just makes sense that for every map there better be some water on there. Otherwise, no point.
Yeah, you do need to have a river or something.
Oh yeah. No, I've got ideas there, but anyway. So, but yeah, we actually did have a vote, because we put up 14 or 15 different animals, and we said we'd take the top 2 or 3.
In my head, I thought it was 17. That was the number I was going to.
Yeah. And we were sticking mainly with smaller mammals. Of course, there's always the possibility of amphibians and reptiles. I excommunicated insects. Different things are happening with them. And I'm still on the fence about birds. I'm just not sure. But of course, aren't birds just reptiles? Or is it that dinosaurs are birds and not
birds?
Reptiles?
Birds are dinosaurs.
Birds are dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, yeah.
And
it's like the chicken is totally a dinosaur.
So I mean, thematically, and the thing is, like, most birds can fly, but then, like, if you look at specific species of birds that you would want to include, they fly in different ways, and
So
you know, it would get kind of complicated. But a lot of birds are pretty smart, which might be something that is relevant.
Crows, and then of course there's Canadian geese, and they're so angry. By the way,
the only Canadians who are angry.
If you wanted an angle for having Biblaridian on the show, returning to an earlier topic, is that one thing that he has gone into depth about is conlanging for species with different biology, and taking it much more seriously than we do.
Yeah, so about that, like, I think there's room for different approaches on that, because we've talked about alien languages on the show before, and I think that I think for you guys, I think a priority was that actual human beings would be able to pronounce the names.
Sure, yeah.
Whereas you might also take a more speculative route and not worry so much about that and build it based on animal physiology or alien physiology. So I can see both things. One of my ideas for streaming would be make all of my own version of all of the exotic languages for D&D. And I'm thinking, like, for dragons look very different, but in terms of accommodating their physiology, I want people to actually be able to say incantations at the table.
Yeah.
So I would probably only, like, remove things at most and not try to make something that is based on some mythical physiology that I make up.
Yeah, and I think,
it's
like, for my level of fun, I'm right there with you. Like, that's what I want too. You know, something that might take some cues from potential dragon physiology, but, like, if it gets to a point where you literally can't pronounce the sounds, then that's just not fun to me. But there are definitely conlangers who think that is the fun part and would like, somebody to go into that. And so it's cool if there's somebody that does that.
And there might be, like, most properties are probably going to want human actors to say all the lines and stuff, but there might even be cases where, I've seen alien languages that could not be pronounced put into books. That's definitely something that you can do. And there's ways. I have one language that has a tone that humans cannot pronounce. I could probably do some sound effects to make it work. But yeah. Yeah, it's very, yeah. But yeah, I would do, like, I would be very happy if your expansion included bats, and I would make the bat language for you guys if you wanted me to. But I think we have talked about a lot of things. I think the number one thing I want to remind people is, as we are recording, registration is available for Kopikon.
There you go.
So go to the site. I will link the site. You go there. It's $40, and it's going to be extremely limited.
Yeah.
You can only have 100 people.
Yeah, and when I say that, like, we, as in Jessie and I, we only have 50. So, like, we're splitting we're splitting the registration with Georgetown. And so, like, for us, like, it's actually only 50.
And then the other.
Well, if you're going to Georgetown, then you go through a different thing. But otherwise, people listening here, go to the link. and you can do the registration. It's $40, and hopefully you guys can get some kind of like online things set up. If you do, then I will update people on that.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. I'll send
so far
everybody the link there. Yeah.
It's just very exciting to have a second Conlang conference with so many good speakers, and I would go there if I could. Yeah. All right.
Cool.
All right, everybody.
Did you have something to say?
Well, I was wondering, should we talk about the UW stuff?
Oh, I mean, if you want to toss it out there.
You know what? The reason I want to do this here, sorry, so just give us like 5 more minutes. The reason I want to do this here is because, of course, you have a wide variety of listeners, so you might have somebody who could build on this. Over the past semester, we've been working with, or was it 2 quarters? No, it was past semester. We've been working with a group at the University of Washington iSchool, and they have been building some Conlang software for us. Which we are calling, which we called Langtime Engine, but basically it's web-based, and it allows you to build a dictionary online with fields in it that are customizable, and it also runs some statistics on them, depending on just a number of variables. And so, like, it's kind of like it's in a stable, though like not super huge state, that people can use right now for if they would like to. But there's also a link on the site to GitHub where they've put together all of their documentation, all of their plans that they had for it that they weren't able to put together, and all of their code. And so if there were Conlangers who are interested, you can take all of that and keep building on it if you would like.
Yeah. There is a need for Conlang software. And, the stuff that is made for language documentation is stuff that I've used before, but it's kind of, not made for what I want to do.
Right.
Exactly. And I had an unfortunate incident with one thing. Make sure that, and I'm sure that the Langtime engine has ways to back up stuff locally.
Oh, yeah, you can export.
Yeah. Make sure whenever you use any software program for your conlanging, make sure you know like where stuff is stored.
Yeah.
Because I lost a dictionary that way.
Oh.
With Flex. But this sounds exciting. To have another option for conlangers. And I would.
Sorry, I was going to see. Is there like a chat option here?
Right there.
What? Where?
Down.
Yeah.
Down. There.
Oh,
okay. There's a chat. There's a chat thing. Are
you
trying to give me a link?
Yes, there we go. So the link is langtimeengine.framer.website. I didn't even know .website was.
Okay, that's great.
There you go.
I did not know that was out. I had seen you calling for people to test it.
Well, this is brand new. They introduced it to us yesterday.
And
wow.
one of the cool things was like, this is really, none of the students working on it are actually conlangers. It was built for conlangers by, they worked with us, but then they also interviewed other people in the community, and they did 3 different rounds of test driving what they were working on with different people throughout the community, and pretty much every time got, completely different people. And so they had a variety of input from the community, which is really exciting.
Yeah. And the cool thing is that, like, it exists as it does, but they made everything available, including all of their notes, so that anybody can use this as a stepping stone if you want to make a new version, build something bigger and better.
Oh, here's something that relevant to what I've just talked about. They have a function to recover deleted languages.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is that's good for 30 days because for the space on the drive. But for 30 days.
Back everything up anyway.
Yes,
but
yes.
This is definitely an interesting. So the language statistics.
Yeah.
And so one thing that we have come across is that when we create words, we manually keep track of, say, how many words start with M, how many words start with B or whatever. But like what we can't really do is how often do words in our language have a B in them, whether it's the first word or, first letter rather, or wherever it occurs, first sound, I should say. And so the statistics allows you to, just hit that button and it will tell you how many times does B occur in your entries in the IPA field? How many times does it occur in this position or here? And so it breaks it down in ways that it's a, touch of a button and you can figure that out about your language.
That's really good. And I think that can be actually a good tool for research because I have often had the question of maybe we should examine conlangs and see if they have the same kind of distribution characteristics as natural languages.
Right.
And that would be, something that I would assume that it at least follows a general like Zipfian distribution, but I don't know.
Right.
It's something that somebody can do some studies on. But and also like different generation methods. Like I generate tons of random roots, whereas you guys like are the kind of conlangers that like come up with stuff out of your own head and build words that way. Whether that affects distribution of different phonemes and stuff, that would be interesting.
And the one question I have there is, of course, you can generate as many roots as you want, but then you have to pick them.
Right.
There's some human element there, Yeah.
And so, that is true. I have to, and I don't randomly assign them. Yeah. I generate. My current MO is generate like 3,000 roots and then randomly pick between them, but then like I will change the random number over and over until I get something I'm happy with.
Nice.
It's kind of like me with a playlist. I just put it on shuffle, but man, if it's not the one song I want to hear,
skip.
Get reshuffled, skip. Yeah.
But that's everything's exciting. Everybody go to Kopikon, Kopikon.com. And go register for that now while slots are open. And everybody go to langtimeengine.framer.website. And you can go and check out Langtime Engine and see if it will fit into your conlanging workflow. It will be, I'm sure it will be exciting for a lot of people. And is this Trigetti slang?
Yeah, it is.
I see English etymologies, and I see, okay. So, all right. So, everybody, thank you, David and Jessie, for being on. Do you have any last thoughts before we leave?
I'm just really honored to be on the very first Conlangery video podcast. It's it's really something that is meaningful to me. That you chose us specifically for this to honor your very first video podcast. I am just honestly just so touched.
And
David,
I've just been fighting.
If you're
David
trying
this
to
whole
trap
time
me
to push me
into
out of
publishing this as a video podcast, do understand that I have the control of the editing and I can remove anything I'd like.
frame. Boom.
This is not live. Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming on, and thank everybody for listening. And I'm going to say happy Conlang. Thanks for listening or watching, as the case may be. If you enjoyed the show, you can support it on Patreon at patreon.com/Conlangery. A big thank you to all of our patrons: Mintaka, Connor Stewart Rowe, Kenan Kigunda, Graham Hill, Jaylinda Surridge, Jessie, Kay, Viren Petrick, Alex Russell Hayes, Alexis Hugelman, Grakagrunk, Grammar Antifa, Eloivar Yana Mentoleum, Jack Keynes, Jeremiah, Nicholas Norblad, Sigourney Hunter, Soten, Sylvia Sotomayor. Conlangery is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license. Conlangery's theme music is by Null Device. Thank you.